Hello! This is a first upload. Wow, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we're here. It's kind of lonely. Hopefully that'll change soon. Today, I'm stuck in COVID-19 quarantine, and that means that I've finally had some time to dedicate to making this video, this first video on this channel. I'm going to be preserving an ancient Roman coin. Now, this is a late Roman coin. It's made of bronze and it's covered in a thick deposit of dirt. It was dug out of the ground, and now I'm going to take the dirt off, take the crust off, 2,000 years of crust. And together, we're going to figure out who's hiding under here and learn more about this piece of history and where it fits in the ancient world. So I'm really excited. I'm extremely excited. I think this is a great use of my COVID quarantine to kind of preserve a piece of history here and hopefully in the process learn about and teach you guys a little bit about ancient Roman coinage and this piece of history specifically. Okay, so the first step is to soak the coin in distilled water. And normally I'll leave it in from anywhere from an hour to a couple days, depending on how crusty and hard the dirt deposits are. What does soaking do? Well, it actually can do a lot of the work for you. So I always like to do this as a first step because metal tools and wooden tools, all the things that I'm gonna use next, can be very destructive to a coin. You know, it's physically scraping things. So before we go to that length, I always like to use something a little bit more natural, aka soaking in water. Now, what you're seeing is, as I put it in this distilled water, you're gonna see a lot of bubbles forming on the surface of the coin. All this ancient air and oxygen that's been trapped. And what the soaking process does is the water can actually get in those fine cracks and lets those gases escape. Imagine a balloon, right, rising. Those little balloons of air are gonna actually pull some of the dirt that's on top of them. So I'm gonna leave it in there for a while, and then I can actually start using hand tools to get into the real cleaning. All right, so she's been cleaning for about an hour now. I think based on the consistency of the dirt, I think that's going to be plenty. Already looks loosened up. Let's bring her onto the tray and we'll start actually taking some dirt off. I'm really excited because I can already see some really cool details popping through here. For a late Roman bronze, it's actually on the medium to larger side. Even though there's a pretty heavy incrustation of dirt, I can see from some of the parts that aren't covered in dirt that there's actually a pretty good intact patina underneath. And I'm actually able to even see some of that green color. This is exactly what we like to see when choosing a coin to preserve, but one thing we're seeing is we have a right-facing bust, and it looks like he's crowned. I can see some of the spikes of his crown coming through. We have a diadem, you can see the two ties of the diadem. And then actually one thing that's really cool is this bust is complete with a cuirass, so it actually goes down the emperor's cuirass here. And then on the reverse, well, there's not as much. I believe this is gonna be two either soldiers or two gods. Some sort of that common Roman imagery of a god or a soldier standing next to a god. And then underneath we have a mint mark, and it looks like right now all I see is an A. It could be an H, but I think it's an A. And then we do have a legend kind of peeking through on the top here. And that probably carries around all the way across the rim of the coin. I'm not sure how much is gonna be intact, but this reverse here probably is gonna have some nice details under there. And I can also tell that the quality of this coin is gonna be pretty good once it's preserved. All right, so I'm actually gonna start removing some dirt here, and I'm using a kind of blunt tipped needle with a slightly flat edge on one side. And I find that this is the perfect tool to help remove dirt, but also not be too destructive if I do accidentally hit any of the actual bronze surface of the coin. One technique that I've developed over the years is the technique of intermittently wetting down the surface of the coin just to dampen the dirt. While it's wet, I'll do light circular motions on some of the bigger deposits to just loosen it up. Then I'll dry it, and when the dirt is in its kind of damp, semi-wet state, just drying, that's when I find that it comes off the best. So really my technique comes down to small, fast back and forth motions with the needle. You're not actually pushing down into the surface of the coin. It's really important not to do this because if you slip or you miscalculate where you're scraping, you could actually damage the patina. So think of it as instead of scraping down into the dirt, you're trying to push the dirt to the side. You're trying to push it away off the surface of the coin. And once you do it enough, you'll actually loosen it up and start removing layers. And it's all about just removing enough layers so that you start seeing the actual green surface of the metal. And that's when you know it's time to stop. All right, so this is the coin after the first pass, and I can actually identify it right now. It's really cool. Sometimes I can't identify them as easily, but this appears to be a silvered coin of Aurelian, which is really cool, and you can actually still see some of the silver is on the bronze. You can see that glint. This coin is called an Antoninianus. I believe I'm saying that right. These were a debased form of silver currency. They're actually struck in bronze and then silvered. So you can see some of the silver there still on the bronze. Most of it has dissolved, but when I'm removing the dirt, I'm being very careful not to remove the silver as much as possible. That's really cool. Now I'm gonna do a rough detail pass on this side of the coin now, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna detail Aurelian here with my diamond tip. I think this is gonna be a really cool piece once it's all done. So in situations like this where there's dirt covering most of the pattern of the coin, I like to start by literally scraping a trench across the whole thing so that I can get a better idea of what lies under it and what the kind of pattern of the design of the coin is. All right, so here we have it. The rough pass is done on both sides of the coin. We have the Emperor Aurelian here, and then we have a reverse with a mint mark B, and we have a god and the emperor I'm gonna get in there now with my diamond tip tool and start doing a fine detail pass. I have to be very specific here because I don't want to be removing silver, I just want to be removing dirt. Discerning between those two things is kind of difficult, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and probably under clean this coin a little bit more than I normally would. I did some edge work on it, I did some detail work, enough so that I can attribute this coin and read all the legends. And I think this might just be a good lesson in, calling it quits while you're ahead. Of everything remaining that's kind of splotching the surface, I think most of that is silver plating that has remained. And I don't want to be assuming that it's dirt because then I'll ruin all the silver plating. So I think right now I'm just going to go into the final step, which is I'm going to apply some Renaissance wax. It's a preservative wax that's used archivally, and actually apply kind of a shiny protective coat. So I'm gonna buff it out and then we'll take a look at what we have. Overall, I'm super happy with this. It was a pretty quick cleanup, and yeah, now I can actually attribute this coin and figuring out all of its secrets. So that'll be next. There you have it. Preserved and attributed late Roman coin. This is a silvered coin of Aurelian with some of the silver still remaining on the surface. All the details are pretty much there. The reverse leaves something to be desired, but you really can make out all the crucial details. One really cool thing about this coin is that the mint mark, which is a B, you can clearly see it. It's actually from an unattributed mint. I couldn't find anything on Wild Winds, which is a really cool surprise. I mean, a lot of times you find super common coins, and I only found about 2 other examples of this coin on Wild Winds, which is a really reputable coin database, which leads me to believe that I have something a little bit more scarce here. And now I'm glad that I can add this example to a short list of specimens of this variety. So that's really cool. For a couple hours, this was really gratifying and definitely took my mind off COVID for a while. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Let me know if you like this kind of video, maybe what improvements you'd want to see. I know this is a janky setup. I'm stuck in my room, quarantining. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you learned something. And make sure you subscribe because I am currently soaking a really cool batch of coins that look very promising, including this big sucker right here. I mean, what's under there?